Hello guys, my name is Fran, aka IronManager. I'm Italian, I'm a bodybuilder and recently turned vegan. And with this video series I would like to share with you my contest prep journey to the NGA Worlds in Florida later this year. Yes, I'm a bodybuilder, I've been training 18 years and competed 14 times. The latest contest was the Arnold Classic Europe in Barcelona last September, where I competed as a men physique. I usually compete as a bodybuilder, but of course by moving into the IFBB Federation and given my lifetime drug-free choice, I thought I could be more competitive in the men physique category. So I placed third at the English Grand Prix qualifier in London last year and got an invite to the Arnold Classic Europe, and that was the pinnacle of my career as a bodybuilder, amatorial bodybuilder, because it was such a great honor to step on stage with all these amazing athletes from all over the world in such an important stage. I'm not here to do any type of vegan propaganda because I kind of like turned vegan almost yesterday or just roughly more than 1 year ago. So I totally understand, and probably I've been eating more chicken than anybody else on the planet. So I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to share my journey, to show you that you can actually get ready for a bodybuilding competition by following a 100% plant-based diet. So I did for my English qualifier to the Arnold Classic, so the English Grand Prix last year, and also my entire prep to the Arnold Classic Europe was following a 100% plant-based diet. And then in November last year, while I was in Los Angeles, I met Marco Zanetti at Gold Gym. So Marco Zanetti is my current nutritional coach, and we talked about, natural bodybuilding competition, my return as a bodybuilder, because my last contest as a bodybuilder was in 2014, and he told me about the NGA and the NGA Worlds in US, and say, why not? I mean, why don't I compete again this year in 2017 as a bodybuilder and trying to get ready for this contest now. In the meantime, I quit my corporate job. That's why the name IronManager. I used to be a corporate manager at a big multinational in London, and I started traveling all over the world. I ended up in India, in Rajasthan, Udaipur, and that's why I decided to engage again with Marco Zanetti to have his recommendation of his advice on how to reach my macros while I was in India, because someone might assume that in India is actually easier because the majority of people are vegetarian, but actually they put dairy products, ghee, butter or purified butter pretty much on everything. So it was not very easy, and food choice was sort of limited to, I would say, like legumes, cereal and pulses. So of course I gained some experience throughout my year as a vegan, but of course the help of Marco was extremely valuable in order to keep a good diet and get ready for my return here to Europe. So here we go. This is going to be the first video of a series. I apologize already because probably it's going to be the longest one, but of course in the first video Marco I have to do a quick introduction about himself. I have to do a quick intro as well to set the scene, and it was also a good opportunity for us to catch up after a long time. After 4 months I've been in India. Of course we had some phone calls, some exchange of emails, but it was the first time via video call. So there are some interesting discussions here about veganism and bodybuilding, and also I share some tips on how I managed to stick with the diet while I was in India with limited availability of food or bodybuilding food, and some interesting tips that are not just valuable for vegan bodybuilders but for everybody. So I let you to the video, interview. Let me know what you think about it. Just please comment below. Let me know what you think about the format, and see you next time.
All right.
All right, guys. So today we have on the call Marco Zanetti. Hi, Marco. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Marco. I think someone knows me, but many don't. I've been working a little bit with Francesco since December of last year, since we met last time in November. And what do you want to know about me? Would you want me to introduce myself and what I do and what I started? So in bodybuilding, actually, I did many competitions, but the pinnacle of all was in 1998 when I won the Italian championship. And that was it. That when I decided that I had to stop and just do my work and my studies. In terms of studies, I did pharmacology, I did human biology, so I have two master's degree. And then later on, I went to do in the United States for the International Sports Society of Nutrition. I did another master in sports nutrition. And so I joined basically my passion, that was bodybuilding, and at the same time my studies, my passion for studies with different organizations, university and other organizations in the United States. So I joined, I founded, as I said, in 1985, the first Italian national natural bodybuilding federation. It was the AINBB that joined the World Natural Bodybuilding Federation in the United States. And then after a gap of 10 years, from 1995 to 2005, I was not involved in any natural bodybuilding federation. And I decided in 2005 to found a new natural federation in Italy. That was the FINBB, which is I actually am president of this organization. The FINBB had a little bit of work with the Musclemania in the United States, but later on we moved back to our beginning. So we decided to join the National Gym Association, as we did in 1985 with the AINBB. Because we decided to do that because actually the National Gym Association was the first one, as I said before, the first one to be created in the United States in 1976. And he has really, let's say, a spiritual of natural, and is, in my opinion, is the most natural federation worldwide. So that's why we decided to go back with the NGA. Not complaining with the other organization, not complaining about Musclemania and so forth, but the principle of natural is very simple. You can understand if you have a natural philosophy, and if the athletes are all following the same kind of philosophy that you are believing to. So that's why we decided to go back to the NGA and join the NGA basically with the FINBB in 2011. We joined the NGA because we worked for 5 years with the Musclemania, and then we moved back to the NGA in 2011, and we started to do cooperation. We did some European Championship. We do 3 shows in Italy, and we do also some shows internationally, some European Championship, and every year we do the Universal NGA Championship with many athletes from Italy, join the American athletes in the United States for a worldwide competition. It is very nice. So I was kind of confusing all the dates and all the other things, but I hope I was pretty clear who I am. So what I am a bodybuilder. I like many things. I like to study. I like science. I work right now mainly as a nutritionist in Italy and helping athletes get ready for shows. So getting their nutrition very well set in terms of nutrients and supplements. And at the same time, I run this natural bodybuilding organization in Italy and many other things, but I don't want to say because otherwise I confuse people.
No, that's great. I mean, of course, there's a lot of things to say. That's why you have to...
Too many
dates. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, you know, I competed in 2012 in Vercelli, you know, an Italian qualifier, and it's where we basically met for the first time. And then after 5 years, actually, 4 or 5 years, last year we met again in Los Angeles at Gold's Gym, and we did a workout together. So it was good to catch up.
That was very nice.
You know, I saw you at reception, so you know I grabbed you, and then we basically have a few words, and we started talking about again natural bodybuilding. I mean, we basically realized that we are on the same page in terms of how to approach bodybuilding, and you know the importance of this as a lifestyle. You know, just a center around health, and trying to really build a body that is basically the reflection of your lifestyle, you know, for your entire life. And this is when also I decided to basically ask for, you know, your consultation, engage with you for a consultation, because my idea was to get back on stage. Of course, I turned vegan last year, just roughly a bit more than a year now. And, you know, of course, you know, I prepared last year for the Arnold Classic Europe because I basically placed third at the English qualifier, the English Grand Prix, and then I got basically an invite for the Arnold Classic Europe in Barcelona in September. And, of course, when I decided to compete last year, I was in Indonesia, and there was a series of events that made me basically try to change my dietary regimen and try to go on a vegan diet, a 100% plant-based diet. I was a bit skeptical at the beginning because I thought that you know, kind of the binomial, or you know, the thing about, you know, bodybuilding and vegan diet, I couldn't really get along very well. But then while I was prepping for, this English qualifier, I basically noticed a lot of improvements in my body composition, in muscularity, vascularity. So I decided to carry on. And, the trip in Indonesia, in Bali, was April, May. And when I came back to Europe, I went straight to Body Power in the UK. And again, I worked there as an ambassador for Body Power, and all my other colleagues were having like pizza with cheese or hamburgers. And I was not really tempted to go back to this type of diet, let's call it like omnivore diet. I didn't have any craving for meat. Actually, I started feeling a bit weird eating any other animals. I had like cravings for eggs, and therefore what I tried to do was, since I had some improvements with the vegan diet, instead of going back to my previous diet, I say, let's try to prepare for this bodybuilding competition, sticking with the vegan diet. And whenever I have cravings for eggs, I just go back to the food that I used to have in Bali. Of course, that was tempeh and tofu. That is not that easily to find, in Europe, but sometimes, in the UK, if you go to like As Naturally Intended or Planet Organic in London, you can find tempeh. And so I was having tempeh when I had cravings for eggs, and gradually I managed to basically remove all the animal-based products from my diet. And at the moment, I'm still, following this diet. Very happy with that. But at the same time, I also changed my lifestyle, because before I was a manager in a big multinational company for 7 years. But last year, when I was in the US, I decided to basically leave my job and fully dedicate my life traveling and doing some volunteering work. And of course, that's another challenge, because I have experience with bodybuilding because I've been training for 18 years and competing 14 times. But, it's very difficult and very different, preparing for a competition when you are a personal trainer, when you have a kind of a predictable lifestyle and schedule. So you wake up every day, you go to the gym, and you go to the office, or you go to the university, and then, eat, sleep, and repeat. Yeah. In my case, I decided to move to India. So in January 2017, I moved to India for 4 months. And of course, I needed, kind of a consultation and the advice from an expert like you in order to manage my vegan diet while in India. Because, of course, in India, India is not like Europe, it's not like in the US. You don't have the type of variety of food and the availability of food that you find in kind of all food in Europe, in the US, or any type of thing. So my diet was really limited in terms of choice of food as a vegan diet, and that's why I engage with you.
Yeah. I think that there are, maybe we can discuss a little bit more about the choice of being vegan and being bodybuilder. In sports, there are many sports where there are athletes who decide to turn to veganism. And bodybuilding is kind of rare, because the challenge in bodybuilding is the need of protein. Yeah. And this is a question that a lot of people ask me about, how can you prepare for a show? How can you train? How can you build your muscle if you don't have the right amount of protein in your body? And actually, I think that is a challenge. That is a challenge for you. Because your muscles, of course, needs protein. And when you decide to be a vegan, it's different than eating every kind of food. And your diet needs to be very well planned during the day. And probably the amount of protein that you are eating right now, you have been eating since January and even before that, are fewer than the amount of your body was used to eat before your choice to become vegan. So that is a challenge. It's a challenge for your body, because you made a change to your body and you reduced the number of protein you were eating. And it's a challenge also because you are doing a sport that actually needs protein, because if you want big muscles, you have to have proteins after you work out. And having a diet based only on vegan is a challenge. And when we discussed together that choice, and we started to cooperate for your preparation in January, we discussed that, and we said, well, it's not going to be easy. Preparing not in a classical way for a bodybuilding show with that kind of diet is going to be hard. I did that before for a few athletes because not many make that choice. But I appreciate that choice because it has a very cultural and intelligent level of conscience, the people that make that choice. So I think it's a challenge because of the proteins need, but at the same time, these experiments that you are doing and this challenge that you have taken will help other people understand that protein is not the only thing that bodybuilders need in their diet. Because right now, if you talk with bodybuilders, especially bodybuilders who are on steroids, now they don't have our philosophy, but they have other philosophy. So if they are on steroids, if you ask what kind of food they're eating, it's a diet that is very poor. The only foods that they eat is fish, poultry, eggs, white eggs all the time. And that causes a lot of problems because, you know, I have consultations with many of those bodybuilders, natural and non-natural, and especially the non-natural bodybuilders, they have so many digestive problems because they turn their body into an allergic response. And sometimes they have adverse reactions to the food that they eat because they eat only an enormous amount of proteins from poultry and fish and egg whites. And that kind of nutrition is very, very bad for the health. As natural bodybuilder, me and you and many others who join our family in natural bodybuilding, we have this philosophy of not just having muscles and work out hard, but also health, being healthy and stay healthy. And I think the veganism and choosing the vegan diet is a way of going towards that direction. So, of course, it's a challenge. It's a challenge because you made this change on your body and the way your body actually was used to train and eat before you made that choice. But it's a challenge because the place where you live, okay, you stayed in India for 4 months, I guess. A lot of people in India are vegan and vegetarian. And now you came back to Europe, you live in Germany, and you can find a lot of vegan food, but at the same time you can find also other kind of foods. It might be a challenge, that thing too, you know. You might be tempted to try back other food, you know. It's kind of hard because if you live in a society where everybody is a vegan, you feel comfortable. But if you live in a society, well, maybe 5% or 8% of people are vegan, it's going to be hard. You also have to find the right restaurants when you go out, and you have to go out with the right people, and always asking. So those are the two challenges, I think, that your choice. And I hope that my cooperation with you will help you, you know, having all the basics that your body needs. At the same time, you know, we haven't started yet, but when we will be starting our preparation for the show in November, I know that it's going to be hard for you. And so I'll be here, you know, to help you out with all the right supplements to make your diet the most effective and perfect for your body.
Yeah. No, the only advantage that I had compared to maybe other guys who moved to or turned to a vegan diet just recently is that I've been competing for 14 times and training for 18 years. So I know, you know, first of all, I know how to train, and that is a kind of a tremendous advantage because I know how to stimulate my muscle. I know how to make my muscle grow. And in terms of protein, yes, I don't have animal proteins anymore, but of course, I mean, proteins are broke down into amino acid, and I try to, even before when I was an omnivore, let's use this label, I used to kind of change a lot my dietary sources of carbs and protein, you know, so even when I was in India, you know, I was not having, of course, all the time the same stuff. I was trying to, you know, change the type of cereal. So in India, for instance, compared to here in Europe, kind of an amaranth that is a complete protein with the full spectrum of amino acid is easily available in every supermarket, or with millet, with quinoa, again, it's pretty easy to find. Then stuff like lentils. Of course, lentils is actually a staple food over there in India, and of course lentils are very rich in protein. Actually, what I found is that now that I moved to Berlin was that here in Berlin, because actually 15% of the population is vegan, so in every restaurant now offer kind of a vegan option for a meal. Of course, I mean, when I go to restaurants, I try to avoid all the condiments and all the fatty stuff that they put in there to make it tasty, because people think that, because you're vegan and you're eating just salads and vegetables, you need to add a lot of, fat, cashew butter in order to make the food taste
a lot of
well.
dressing.
Yeah, it's not really like that. I actually found that in India it was more difficult to find vegan options because, yes, there are a lot of vegetarians, not vegan. So, in India, of course, they still have a lot of dairy products, so that's why they also have like higher rates of osteoporosis, because they eat a lot of milk and dairy products. So every time that I was going to a restaurant, I just needed to make sure that my dal, so my lentil stew, or my bread didn't have any ghee, dairy, milk, curd, or anything in that. Because sometimes people think that even naan, the typical Indian bread, they think is vegan because it's just wheat and flour and wheat flour and water. While in reality they put a lot of ghee in it, so you need to go with chapati instead of. Again, I always paid a lot of attention in the food I was eating, even before turning vegan. So even like in India, I have of course a limited option of food compared to now, and if I had to choose between a normal wheat chapati, for instance, and a bajra chapati, so like a millet or amaranth chapati, I was going for the kind of a wholemeal bajra chapati, so they could get more nutrients from that type of food. And of course, at the moment I'm 87 kilos, and I'm 174, so 190 pounds for 5.7 feet. So I'm relatively heavy for my height. So my kind of a protein quota that we agreed was roughly 150, 160. At the moment, I'm here in Berlin. It's very easy because I can easily reach that quota in 3 meals. I actually have to pay attention to not to eat it too quickly throughout the day. In India it was tough, and that's why I had a lot of supplements. So I have to take a couple of times a day some pea protein or hemp protein just to supplement my protein quota.
Yeah. And what kind of difficulties you find? I mean, you travel a lot because you go by airplane and bus. When you are traveling and you are a classical bodybuilder, they are preparing their chicken, they're preparing their egg whites. I mean, in your case, what do you prepare before leaving? It seems maybe you leave for 1 day or 1.5 days for your long trip. And I mean, what you put in your bag, you care about that, or you just eat whatever you find on your trip that is vegan?
No, at the moment, of course, we haven't started the prep for the competition as yet. But of course, I'm in that phase where I'm thinking about, I look more at my macros because after the Arnold Classic last year, I went for 4 months in the US where we met then in Los Angeles. I spent a bit of time in Miami, New York, and of course, I after the competition, I indulged a bit too much on some of the food. I mean, it was the first time for me as a vegan in kind of the bulking phase of my preparation. So of course, I went to a lot of nice restaurants, definitely a lot of food, more fat. So basically now I'm trying to trim down, get to that level of body composition in order to get ready for the prep. So whenever I go out, even when I was in India, I was basically having my workout at empty stomach, and then before that, the night before, I was preparing this porridge, kind of an overnight porridge with amaranth flakes, some flax seeds, so omega-3, so ALA, omega-3, and then some banana, and then some protein powder. And it was like a vegan blend, so it was quinoa, amaranth, pea protein, and protein, as I was having that after the workout. And then, of course, I used to work in India for Animal Aid, so an NGO for kind of animal rights for animals in Udaipur in Rajasthan. So I made a lot of friends over there, including a chef. He used to work in a restaurant called Millets of Miwar. So the day before going to Animal Aid, I used to ask him to prepare us like some rice and some beans to have it at Animal Aid. And then, you know, in the afternoon, I used to have maybe some tofu, and then in the evening, some dal with some chapati and more vegetables, just to finish up the day. Here in Berlin, at the moment, I'm still looking for a flat. It's actually proving to be more difficult than I thought. So at the moment, I'm basically backpacking and you know, walking up and down the city. But as I said, I mean, it's much easier than in India because there are a lot of like organic shops or vegan, even vegan, 100% vegan supermarkets like Vegans. They have free supermarkets that are entirely vegan, so you don't even have to read the labels over there because every product is vegan. So it's actually, yeah, it's kind of I'm trying to understand more about the cultural shift that happened here in Germany to make you know, the vegan demand so higher compared to other countries in the rest of the world. It's kind of very interesting. So what I do is a bit embarrassing, but you know, in this type of restaurants or this type of shops and supermarkets, I find some rolls of tempeh made with lupin beans, like broad beans, or you know, with soya tempeh, so fermented soya beans, and I'm basically eating it as a, you know, chicken breast while I'm walking up and down the city, or maybe a can of beans, you know, some bread. They have a lot of sprouted bread here. Yeah, that is kind of a lower in gluten, so easy to digest as well. You know, they have soy yogurt or lupin yogurt that is enriched in protein, so this is something that I have. And then in the evening, I basically go to some of the restaurants. There are thousands of restaurants here. I use an app called EpiCow, and on this app, you know, you can find all the vegan restaurants or the restaurants that offer some vegan options here in the city. So it's
what's the name of is EpiCow, the application?
EpiCow.
Ah, yeah. Okay. Do you see yourself like a sort of a pioneer on choosing a vegan diet for bodybuilding? Because I said before, you know, in other sports there are already athletes and champions who have chosen to become vegan. But in your case, do you see yourself as a pioneer in that sense?
No, not at all. I mean, there are a lot of other vegan bodybuilders. Maybe you know, in Italy not so many, or in Europe not so many as in the US or in Australia. But I follow a lot of other vegan bodybuilders online on Instagram and Facebook. I know that it's possible. As I said, compared to people who just turn vegan after a few years of training at the gym, I have the advantage that I've been training for 18 years, so I know how to you know, train my body. I'm also always been very interested and curious about nutrition. So even as an omnivore, I was always I don't like to use this label, but I was always paying like extra attention to every food and everything that I put in my mouth.
Of course.
So now, you know, of course,
like all bodybuilders,
that's
they
right,
all the same. You know, they like to study and learn about nutrition.
Exactly.
But you know, you said that you have been working out for 18 years. You have a very strong and deep foundation in bodybuilding. But sometimes when you have such an experience, it's hard to make the change. You know, because if you have just started, if you are at the beginning, you know, even just 1 year or 2 years on working out and so forth, maybe you make that change, but it's not hard. But when you come from 18 years of a classical way of preparation, I think is a bigger choice than just becoming or being just naturally vegan. You were not born a vegan. You haven't started bodybuilding as a vegan, but you change after 18 years. And that is something encouraging for those who want to make that choice too. And when I ask you if you felt like a pioneer, I was, you know, in my mind thinking of people that will be following your steps. especially if you make all these videos and you explain how you do your preparation. Don't you think that people will be following you, and more people, more bodybuilders will join you on this adventure and become vegan, and we make a better world? In that sense,
yeah.
I meant
Absolutely.
pioneer.
No, absolutely. I mean, I would love that. And to be honest, I mean, I explain in some of the other videos on my YouTube channel how I decided to turn vegan. So this trip in Indonesia, in Bali, and initially I can say that it was more like a selfish decision, you know, thinking about, again, as a natural bodybuilder, for my health, for sustainability. Again, my objective is to continue to compete until it's time to die. So, you know, of course, I was, you know, reading a lot about nutrition and trying to always find the better choices for my meals, for my health. So initially it was out of curiosity and, you know, I would say like very a selfish decision based on health. But now, especially after the 3 months in Udaipur working for Animal Aid, I can definitely say that my choice now is very ethical and is for, you know, the animals, is for the planet, and I don't have this type of kind of approach and mentality of a vegan Nazi. That basically, as a you know, as for a crusade, will try to convince you to go vegan, because everyone will have different motivation and different way to try, even to experiment with the vegan diet. I don't want to be too pushy. But yeah, I would love to, you know, through this series of video and in the course of my preparation for this competition, to really show other people by example that you can be a bodybuilder, you can be a bodybuilder by following a 100% plant-based diet.
Yes, of course, of course. Let me say a couple of things as a scientist, because that's my role. You're very expert on you know, finding the different kind of foods and taste, and so you are very good at that. As a scientist, I can say that the vegan diet is not for everybody. That's for sure, because we are all different, and each one of us needs our own diet. So, and I'm convinced of that. So if you're doing a vegan diet, and many people can do a vegan diet, but there are also athletes or people, women and men, who cannot actually do a vegan diet because that will cause them trouble and problems. And there are many reasons. We can maybe discuss also these things in the future in other videos that we can do together. And I can discuss which people will not be profitable on using a vegan diet. But at the same time, I think that a lot of people would be very good for them. And always as a scientist, the one question I want to ask you, the biggest change that we make when we come from an omnivore diet to a vegan diet is the amount of fiber that we introduce in our body. Because when we are in an omnivore diet, and sometimes many bodybuilders diet have very few fiber because they reduce the amount of vegetables. Sometimes they don't even eat the fruits because they think the fruits makes them fat, and so they don't have fibers. On your choice, when you made the decision of becoming a vegan, you increased enormously the amount of fiber that you introduce with your body. So this is a question that might help people that want to make the change. What happened to your body when you decided, you know, I don't know, maybe you were going, let's talk about science. So you were going to the bathroom once a day. But when you decided to increase the amount of fibers, what changed you felt on your body? Were like some discomfort at the beginning, or everything was fine and you didn't see any difference at all? Just, if you can, just explain a little bit what changed.
This is actually the question that I receive most of the time from my followers as well, because, you know, it's the fear of farting, right? Yes. So everybody's asking about that. And to be honest, you know, in my case, just because, as I said before, I experimented a lot. Also, I was having a lot of legumes and pulses before every evening, even if I was having a very flexible diet, and I was basically eating everything, like tons of chicken as a, you know, typical bodybuilder bro, but I was having a lot of vegetables, legumes, chickpeas pretty much every night. So I didn't experience any problem. Actually, only advantages in terms of improving, kind of a recovery from workouts. And when I was in Bali, that I started, this diet. I was training also a couple of times a day, so twice a day. But I was recovering faster. My skin improved. So that's also the reason why I was a bit skeptical, curious and skeptical at the same time, because I was in the middle of the preparation for this English Grand Prix, so qualifier for the Arnold Classic, and everybody would have said, "Oh yeah, you're stupid trying a completely different diet after so many years of training and following a bodybuilder diet, based on chicken, broccoli, rice, and the typical bodybuilder food. Yeah. Trying a vegan diet in the middle of a preparation." But I always like to try different things, and I always try to pay attention to the reactions of my body. And those initial 2 weeks of vegan diet were very positive. I took a lot of pictures, so who follow me on Instagram probably saw a lot of pictures on Instagram in that period, where I definitely improved volume, muscularity, vascularity, because my body felt better, and that's why I decided to stick with it. And in terms of legumes or fiber, as I said, even before I was very picky. I'd always been very picky in choosing, the type of cereal, the type of legumes, or every food that was giving me some bad reactions. So I know that, for instance, even before turning vegan, that I can have as many green peas as I can and I want, because those don't cause me any issue at all at the intestinal level. Well, if I try green lentils, and green lentils for me are like just is a no. So even when I was in India, I was always trying to, by remembering my body reaction in the past, try to avoid specific foods. And in terms of, again, in India, as I say, no many options, but of course in the evening we were having some dal, so some lentil stew at the restaurants.
Yes,
I would always going for like black lentils or yellow lentils, so dal makhani or dal tarka, instead of green lentils, because those were causing me big problems. Other things are that I talked about in other videos on my YouTube channel are oat, so an oatmeal that is kind of the common bodybuilder staple food for breakfast. Actually caused me a lot of stomach acidity. So after a few times trying to stick with it, because I was saying, oh, come on, I need to have oat because every bodybuilder, have an oatmeal in the morning. I decided to change and move to rice flakes. So as I say, like in India, amaranth flakes or millet flakes, and now I feel much better. So I think that's a good advice for everybody who wants to approach and try, even out of curiosity, a vegan diet, is to start increasing your fiber intake very gradually, and try to pay attention to the reaction of your body. If that food causes you a lot of bloating problems and stomach ache, then maybe is a no, and you can switch to something else.
Of course.
What I learned with a vegan diet is something that I was trying to learn also before, but now even more, because of course vegan food is limited compared to the diet I was following before, is that there's not just 3-4 cereals. So people think that you have rice, you have wheat, you have corn, and that's it. But there are so many others, and
in fact, that is very important. I'm trying not to be too scientific, but it's very important, the variety of food. Now, in order not to having too many problems in your body. Right now, actually, I'm majoring in the macrobiota. Macrobiota is the study of all the microbes that live inside our body, and there are many research on that. And when you eat, the problem that people are having is because sometimes they focus on like 2-3 major nutrients, and they just keep eating those nutrients without a variety of food. So that may cause a problem to your microbiota, so the microbes that lives inside your body. So when you approach the vegan diet, actually, you were a little bit used of fibers, and you gave to the people a very good suggestion. So when you have to increase the amount of fibers that you eat, just do it gradually, because by doing gradually, you help at the same time your microbes that lives inside your body to grow and to eat the food that you are eating, the new food. For example, if we have like the microbe A and the microbe B, if a specific food is used by the microbe B, but we have few cells of microbe B inside your intestine, and you eat too much food of that, the one that the microbe B are using, that might cause some problems to your body. So you have to gradually train your body to the new food that you are introducing. So that was a very good suggestion on your part. So when you want to make the change, make sure that the fiber that you introduce it gradually, and you grow the number of fiber. And fiber is health. It's health for your stomach, for your intestine, for your bowels in general. So it's never bad.
That's right.
But it might be bad if you do it too much all at once and you feel uncomfortable because your body simply is not used to it. It doesn't have the microbes. The microbes that are growing inside our body, we can change them. So that is very new in the science. So we can change it, and we can teach our microbes we can increase one microbe and decrease another microbe by just changing our diet. So and another suggestion: listen to your body, and you're doing that correctly. I mean, you're listening to your body. You try different things, and you see maybe that food really is not very good for you. And I can't explain that, but not in this time. But you feel it. You feel that something is wrong. Well, in that case, you can stop it.
Or a combination of food as well. So.
Or a combination of food as well. Well, we can discuss these things. That would be very useful for the people who would like to know more about the vegan diet. Absolutely. And in the future videos that we will make, we will talk more about your preparation, because we will start soon your preparation for the NGA in November. And it was a nice conversation. What do you think?
Thank you. No, yeah, absolutely. And what I can say also about fiber and macrobiota is that, of course, I mean, all these prebiotics and probiotics help also your immune system. So I'm not a scientist, so I don't want to get into pseudoscience, but I have also an autoimmune disease like Hashimoto syndrome. And since I turned vegan, I definitely experienced, I felt better also from that side of things. So I didn't have any kind of a vertigo anymore or palpitation. The situation seems to be very stable, and probably because, as you said, I mean, my macrobiota is adapting to the new type of diet. And surely I didn't have any problem with the typical Indian disease. So everybody who's been to India knows that, of course, hygiene there is not as good as in Europe or in US. So you end up having some toilet runs very quickly and very easily, while with this type of diet, avoiding also meat and any type of animal products, I didn't have any problem at all, apart from the very beginning, of course, when you come from the Western world and you approach this type of reality, especially Rajasthan, because then when we moved to Mumbai and Goa, the situation was very different. But Rajasthan is very poor, very desert area, so absolutely very different. So I'm happy now to be here in Berlin, and as I said, as you said, we're gonna carry on this interview series just to share my journey to the competition through your help and your consultation, and hopefully this is gonna be useful also for other people.
Okay, I look forward for that, for more videos and a cooperation with you, and working and preparing you for the NGA Universe this coming November. And I hope that everybody enjoyed your videos as they are doing right now already.
Thank you so much. Yeah, let's see where I am next time, and maybe I also do a little trip to Italy, so we see each other in person.
Okay, very good. Ciao,
Thank
Francesco.
You. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Ciao,
Bye,
ciao.
bye, bye.